you are very much an expert on regen agriculture.
You can produce water right out of the air, water your crops, and grow totally organic food for your family, for sale, whatever you want. You can scale it up real small. But my Food Forever project is geared for the average homeowner.
We've all been captive to this very sick oriented way of growing food and the factory farm system. And just, I mean, aside from how bad it is for us and our health, just the inhumanity too.
Yeah.
It's just awful. There's a respect factor to your food and the benevolence that it's giving to us to sustain life. And these systems have just violated every known way that we're supposed to respect, fellow creatures, even the ones that we eat. How are you rolling it out?
Before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is, without question, the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, T-shirts. You got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want. Gold and silver. Welcome to CarminesGold.com. Don't waste not even a second looking. Cheaper prices just don't exist. How important is it for you to own gold and silver right now? What does it mean to me personally? There's an economy that's about to crash beyond what words can explain. In 5 words, I'm going to educate you on gold and silver. Are you ready? You need to own some. Simple.
Hi, Elisa V here. Did you know that medical bills are the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States, accounting for 66.5% of bankruptcies? In fact, in 2022, 17% of adults with healthcare debt either declared bankruptcy or lost their homes due to it. We can all agree that the healthcare system is broken. Well, there is an alternative that I want to tell you about. It is impact health sharing, which Yahoo News is calling the disruptor in the $4.6 trillion healthcare system. With impact health sharing, you can choose the doctors, clinics, and naturopaths that you want with less restrictive guidelines. Medical bills are reduced to their fair market value, and premiums are 30 to 72% cheaper than competitors. Plus, Impact Health incentivizes healthy habits like supplements, gym visits, and therapy. Call 844-275-1056 and use the code MELCARMINE for a free quote today. Hello and welcome. We are so happy to have you here on the Mel Carmine Show today. I'm Elisa V, your guest host. As always, I want to remind you about the upcoming Quantum Summit, which is quickly approaching, taking place on March 8th and 9th in Cape Canaveral, Florida. And this landmark event is hosted by Mel Carmine and his esteemed wife, Amber, which promises to bring together the most influential minds, individuals shaping the future of science, health, and governance. There's going to be distinguished contributors, including collaborators aligned with the envisioned Trump RFK administration, and they will be presenting initiatives aimed at revitalizing America's health and agriculture by restoring essential trace minerals to our soils. I'll be there as one of your MCs, leading some amazing panels as we chart the path to a healthier, more sustainable, prosperous future. Get your tickets now. And you want to join this celebration because in addition to the pivotal information that's going to be shared, we will be having a blast with some of the most delectable foods, music, dancing, and yes, karaoke. Tickets are going to stop being on sale 10 days before the event, so I urge you to secure them now. Just go to 1776.com, and you'll be able to purchase your tickets and get more information. And if you enjoyed this podcast today, please like, share, and subscribe. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest. We welcome Tom Stephan. And Tom is a retired certified arborist and public speaker who's built an amazing career, which began with his interest in birds in 1962. He spends his days sharing his enthusiasm and knowledge of nature and its inhabitants with people around the world. He is also an expert in regen agriculture, which is incredibly timely at present and which we are going to delve into today. Welcome, Tom. So glad to have you
Well,
here.
thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I would love for you to, I gave a little bit of an overview so people know a little bit about you, but I'd love you to just briefly tell everyone about your very interesting background and how you came to be doing what you're doing now.
Well, at the risk of boring everybody, I'll talk about how it all started. Second grade, the teacher said all the kids have to do a report on a wild animal, any wild animal. And so I thought about it over the weekend. And Monday morning, we all had to stand next to our desk and tell the class what animal we were going to do the report on. And I said, I'm going to do mine on dinosaurs. And they all laughed at me. And I was very embarrassed. And I didn't know why they were laughing. And they said, the teacher says, no, Tom, it has to be a living animal. And I'm thinking, well, she didn't say that, you know. And so think fast. I'll do it on golden eagles. Oh, good, Tom. Why that? Just because they remind me of dinosaurs. I was right. Aves birds are in a clade called Maniraptorans, which includes T-Rex, Velociraptor, Deinonychus, Troodonts, Aves. They're birds. You know, birds are dinosaurs. So I was cutting out all the pictures of eagles, and I had to broaden the scope to all birds of prey. And my mother handed me a 1939 National Geographic article about a day in the life of an Indian prince. It's about falconry in India. And I was so enamored with that. But this is the coolest sport in the world. You know, you've got this wild animal and it flies free and hunts and comes back to you. And I couldn't believe it, you know. So I was just focused from then on. And I climbed all these hawk nests when I was young in my youth. And when I was asked to get a job, seeing as though I wasn't going to go to college, we were right in the middle of something called the Vietnam War at the time. And I knew how to climb trees. It was the only thing I had that was close to a trade. And so I became a tree man. 25 years later, I have my own business. I'm a certified arborist, and I'm giving a lady an estimate to trim this huge California sycamore tree in this posh country club uh, in San Diego County. And it had an owl box in this low branch right near the kitchen window there. And I'm writing up the estimate. I said, by the way, you're not going to get any owls in that box. It's too low. She goes, well, how do you know, Mr. Tree Man? You know, and I said, well, I'm a falconer, and I'm a raptor propagator and a part-time raptor biologist. And I've climbed every hawk nest in this whole county, it seems. And then the light went on. I said, hey, if you give me the job, I'll put that box up for you. You know, no problem. I'm going up there anyhow. Might as well, you know. And oh, she said, okay, great. You got the job. My late husband put that up on a ladder, and that was as high as he could put it up there. And he was always real bummed that he never got any owls for me. And so I put it up on a Wednesday in 1991. And she called me Saturday morning and said, I'm having a bridge game with my gal friends. And one of my friends said, what's that in the tree? And she says, it's an owl box. He goes, no, there's something moving up there. And everybody gathered around. There's a pair of owls in there looking at him.
Oh, wow.
And I sold a box to every one of those ladies. I put up 10 boxes the first week. And I'm like, wow. So I don't gamble, but when I do, you know, socially, I'll take half the money that I win if I win and put it out in the truck and lock it up. And that way I always go home with something, you know.
Yeah.
And so I did I call it the Vegas rule. So I took half that money and I started advertising in a little podunky paper in Escondido, California. And a San Diego Union reporter saw the ad and did a full page article on the Sunday. And with a half page picture of me holding up one of the owl boxes, you can kind of see one behind me.
Yeah.
And um, so the phone just blew up. I put up 248 boxes the first year. 200 of them or so were after the first year had nests. And according to the field unit curator of birds at the Natural History Museum, I had doubled the known population of barn owls in the first year in San Diego County.
Wow.
That was 24,000 owl boxes ago. And my second year in 1992, almost 93, I put a camera in an owl box and gave it to my in-laws for an anniversary present. And old Tony, he was a World War II vet, and he had no affinity for birds other than fried chicken, say. And he just loved it, you know. And there's a long story there I won't go into, but he he I knew there was magic to this, because if I could get him enthused about it, I could get anybody enthused about it. And I was telling this story to a lady at Cornell University Ornithology a couple of years back. She goes, "What year was that?" I said, 1992. She says, "You invented the bird can." I go, "Oh, got a feather in my cap, you know."
Wow.
And so, yeah. So whenever you go online and you're watching eagles in San Bernardino or peregrine falcons in New York or whatever on the side of a high-rise building, it all started in little podunky Ramona, California.
Wow, what a great story. So I know that part of, where we are today, right? I know that you are very much an expert on regen agriculture, and I would love to know how working with putting up the owl boxes and understanding what you do as an arborist. How does that all fit in? How does the agriculture fit in, and what was the segue? And I know you have lots of information about if you look at the title, right, that we have of our show
Yeah,
today, it's basically what you don't know about your food could kill you. So
right.
let's segue into that and how you got into that and talk a little bit about that, because that's actually an area I'm pretty passionate about. I know a lot of us in this community are very passionate about what has happened over the God knows how many years now with our food and our soil, and what that means to our health and just everything, the earth. So tell me a little bit how you moved from doing what you were doing to getting into this area of regen agriculture.
Yeah, in 2010, I had a hip replacement, and hospital in Poway, California, gave me a MRSA infection. And so I fought it with everything I could think of for 2 years. And I tried 33 different medicines, and I finally left the AMA and went to Mexico. And they gave me my first clues about hydrogen peroxide. And there's a natural form of hydrogen peroxide that's in Manuka honey, which saved my life at the last minute. I wouldn't have lived another 2 or 3 days. I'd lost 100 pounds. I was skin and bones. And my wife found this Dr. Mercola on the online, and he interviewed. The first article was about Manuka honey, and it saved my life. And then so now I got my hand on his radio. You know, this guy saved my life. You know, he's the guru. You know, and he interviewed Professor Hazlet Maroquin, who grew up as a Indian boy up in the highlands of Guatemala, and he dreamed of going to America and learning the big industrial agriculture like Americans do and make a lot of money. So he can go back and teach his tribe how to raise themselves out of abject poverty, and which was a noble effort. But Kansas is not the highlands of Guatemala. And but he did get here. He couldn't get here until he was 26. There was a civil war going on there, and he finally got his PhD. And what he did was he took his regenerative agriculture, eons old Mesoamerican way of growing food crops with the livestock in the crops, and he mixed the two, industrial agriculture and his old method, together, and he scaled it up. And I copied that, and I won first place at the Southern California Ag Expo in my division. And since then, I call it Food Forever. His was Main Street Project, and I call mine Food Forever. I've greatly improved on it since. And so in every way, to the point where it doesn't even need well water or piped in water. All the irrigation water comes from machines called water generators, which are solar powered. So now anybody in the outback of Australia or Kalahari Bushmen, anywhere, you can produce water right out of the air and water your crops and grow totally organic food for your family, for sale, whatever you want. You can scale it up real small. But my Food Forever project is geared for the average homeowner. Small backyard, eighth of
That's
an
what I was
acre,
just
quarter
going
of
to
an
ask
acre.
you. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to ask you that.
So it's a poultry-based one, which everybody immediately thinks chickens, but you could have quail. If it's a real small backyard, the Food Forever project, you could have quail, you could have chucker, you could have pheasant, you could have chickens or turkeys. It all depends on how big turkeys. He tried a lot of Professor. We call him Reginaldo. He tried a number of animals. The mammals didn't work out so well. They ate the crops, and
Okay.
laid down in it and whatever. But the poultry worked real well. He said turkeys were the best.
Really?
But yeah,
So for our viewers, can you explain what that looks like? Like, let's say I have a decent sized yard. Like, my yard isn't that huge, but I'm able to grow stuff. And so, what does that look like? Like, what would someone have to do? And and
well,
what's the principle of how it works, like in practicality, right?
yeah, yeah. So it's a closed loop system. Uh, the livestock, poop, pee, and all those disgusting things that we don't like, plants love. And it
Okay.
grows earthworms. Earthworms are key. They move fungi, beneficial fungi around called mycorrhiza. And mycorrhiza, 97% of all plants on the planet have beneficial fungi that live on their root tips. And they feed it sugar and give it a place to live. And the fungi, in turn, help the plant absorb mineral laden water. And so it's a symbiotic relationship, mutual relationship, which goes back to the very dawn of time. And all living life forms with more than two cells have this DNA in it. And so the Food Forever project is Reginaldo started out the Main Street project with 3 paddocks. I think they were 1 acre apiece, and he had a fence around them, and then 2 fences in the middle, so they were divided. And he planted them with everything that people like to eat, from nuts to bean sprouts, everything. And then he'd let poultry in one, and they'd eat all the good bugs and the bad bugs. They'd get earthworms if they could, and then aphids and other, chewing insects, eat all the insects. And then when they're out of the insects, they'll start tipping the plants and damaging the plants. And you pull them out and you move into paddock 2 and replant paddock 1. And same thing from 2 to 3. So you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But you had to move there was a rolling chicken coop called a chicken tractor that you would move each time with, to correspond to whichever paddock you wanted to move them into. And I got tired of moving the paddock, and I mean the chicken tractor. And so what I did was I made it into a square, and I put a fence in the middle like an X. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4 paddocks, and put the chicken coop in the middle with 4 doors. And then I just let them into whichever one that I wanted. And that way, all you had to do. I had a metal tray underneath the chicken coop to clean up the droppings and disperse it out there. You can just fling it around, and it'll just soak right in when it rains. And my fence though was a paddle cactus that it grows a big red fruit on it that the Mexicans call nopales, and they're real sweet and delicious, and they have these great big black seeds in there that chickens go crazy over. They eat the red meat and they eat these seeds, and they'll all fight over it. And never have to water these things; they just grow. You just stick them in the ground and they grow, and they produce this fruit which the chickens eat and turn into eggs and meat, and or all organic food. So then that was phase 2, and then phase 3, I added the solar powered water generators for the irrigation, and so now it's my humanitarian project. Don't give this to the world. Everybody can feed themselves and eat clean, healthy food, because all our food is owned by corporations. In fact, our U.S. government is a corporation. If you go to USC 28 USC 3002, Chapter 15A, you'll see that we don't live in a republic. it's a corporation. So we've all been bamboozled.
Well, we're hopeful at this point that, politically that the corporation is now bankrupted and dead and we're going to be, we're moving back into the republic, right? Which is wonderful, but for all these years and especially for a number of generations, we've all been have been captive to this very sick oriented way of growing food and the factory farm system and just, I mean, aside from how bad it is for us and our health, just the inhumanity too. It's just
Yeah.
it's just awful. I mean, and
Psycho
anybody who is, whether you're a meat eater or you're not a meat eater, there's a respect factor. There's a respect factor to your food and, the benevolence that it's giving to us to sustain life. And these systems have just violated every known way that we're supposed to respect, fellow creatures, even the ones that we eat. So your system, so now what you're doing, right? This is something that, how are you rolling it out? Let's put it that way. Is it through, just being on shows like this and explaining what's going on? Are there other ways? Are you working with, let's say, I don't want to say big companies from a negative standpoint, but people with reach that can help you to get this word out more?
I would enjoy that very much. Whenever I will be on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, and I'll see regenerative agriculture and go to Agriculture International, which is where Professor Reggie is now the president of. I'll link I wrote a blog for Mother Earth News, and so if you go to Mother Earth News, Tom Stephan blog, you'll see 5 or 6 blogs that I invented some. If you know what biochar is,
No,
there's
explain that. Yeah, explain that
yeah,
if you would.
biochar. The first spy satellites in the late '60s and early '70s were showing blocks of South American and Mesoamerican jungles that were greener and lusher than the surrounding jungle, and they were in rectangles and triangles and squares. So we knew that they knew that man had done it, but there was no man there, no men there, no people. So they sent the anthropologists out, and everywhere they went, when they found these places, the dirt was black, and they tested it was full of carbon. And so they found all these bones and trash and broken pottery shards, which are full of minerals. And so they asked their ancestors, "Are these their dumps?" And they said, "See, yes, they're dumps." And they said, "But didn't they grow their crops there too?" And said, "See, it's their dumps and their crops." And so they didn't know what to make of it. But it turns out that what they would do is they would cut down a block of the jungle and throw all the slash in these pits, let it dry out, and then light it on fire. And they put it out at about 2/3 of the way through the burning process. So it's called pyrolysis. And they would put it out, and there are all these logs that are black and burnt all the way through, but not falling apart yet. And then they would throw all their fish guts and sacrificial victims and whatever they had. Everything went on those logs, and they
Okay.
let it sit there for 4 or 5 years, and all the rot and decay and all the beneficial fungi, that everything lived on that, in that charcoal. All the cells are burnt open-ended. They're like little, I call them tenement buildings. And so the mycorrhiza would live in there. And as they live in there, every time it would rain, they would break up the carbon, and they would constantly, for generations, one application of biochar will fertilize plants, trees, crops, whatever, for generations to come. And they fed millions in with the poorest soils on the planet using biochar. And they had a way of growing beans on corn stalks, and at the base were squash. So they had a that was their bean pole, if you will, was the corn stalk. And it's beautiful. I mean, so I built these 2-inch thick um, wooden grow boxes, and they hang on the fence. And tomatoes grow down from the kind of like those old topsy turvy things that they came out with back 15 years ago. But the problem is that with that is that the summer sun will heat up, and the soil temperature is too hot for the roots, and it kills the fungi. So if you have enough insulation, 2-inch thick boards all the way around, and I burn on the inside and smeared them with mycorrhizal fungi spores, which you can buy at Amazon or wherever. And then so I created my own biochar box, and I call it a bio box. And that's another blog article that you'll see at Mother Earth News.
I'm going to put those articles in the description box so everybody, can have access to read further and to, see everything you're talking about. So with the bio boxes, this is something that you're also teaching people how to do, how they can do this on their own.
Yeah, I took the first ones to a farmer's market and sold 2 or 3. And I heard back from the lady. She says, I lifted the lid up and it's all gray inside. Looked real yucky. And I go, no, no, that's good. That's good. You want that, and the more fungi, the better. And she goes, okay. And so, yeah, how I get the word out is, like I said, it's just online, whenever I'm chatting, and always, direct them back to the Mother Earth News articles.
Yeah. So let me ask you, like on a personal level, and just from what you've been doing, business wise, like what do you see as the future? You know, we know how dim the past has been, and we know what it's done to us. So, like, what do you see going forward when it comes to the way we grow our food, how we get our food, even, is it going to look the same the way we do now, where we go to these we go to these supermarkets and God only knows what we're getting. Tell me what your thoughts are, how you envision what we're in for.
Well, in the past, they wanted us to live a long, unhealthy life, so that we constantly had to go to the doctor for prescription drugs and go to the hospital for operations, and they worked us. And matter of fact, in second grade, they told all my class that everybody's got to get a vaccine tomorrow. So I went down there, and they had these little tiny Dixie cups, and I had to drink this slightly sour liquid, which everybody knows now is SV40, cancer-causing vaccine, simian virus. So orangutans have a benign virus that doesn't affect them, but in humans, it gives them cancer later on in life. So I've had 2 operations. I'm a cancer survivor. Who knows what it came from, if it came from that or not. But but the future is, everybody's heard about RFK's new program. We're going to go to regenerative agriculture, and Joe Salatin and Reginaldo, Professor Reggie. And but what I want is, I really want to get my hands dirty here. I want everybody to be able to learn. It's fun to grow your own food. What is the most delicious food? It's food you grew. Its story, and it's so much healthier and it's so much better. The food at most grocery stores are like tomatoes. They're just like eating water. There's just no flavor, but grow it yourself. Oh my God. And no boast, but I make the world's best guacamole. And I won't make it unless I've got homegrown tomatoes. And that's just absolutely key. It just isn't worth making if I can't use that. So from the ground up, from your backyard all the way up to giant industrial farming, we want it to all go to regenerative ag. There's no pesticides needed. Nothing needs to be imported into that farm. It's all 100% closed loop, and it produces copious quantities of organic food because of soil fertility. It's all about soil fertility, like the ancient Mesoamerican, Reginaldo's ancestors. And soil fertility can be measured in units called cations. Cations are positively charged soil particles, and they get positively charged because of life in the soil, microflora and fauna. That's the fungi, even a few bacteria, and there's even a virus or 2, but they're all benign, and they don't hurt people, and they help plants grow. And so we, just like we're learning how to self-govern right now, we're going to have to learn how to make our own food again. And I think it's the greatest thing. I cannot believe at this juncture that getting a chance to learn how to be Americans again, grow our own food, be healthy, get back to the land. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, it's I get up every morning and go, they did it. Trump did it. He got rid of them. They're on the run, and
Yeah,
we should.
I actually just got chills because, we they detoured us for so
They
long.
did.
That's really how I look at it. We were going this way. I saw a funny quote a couple of weeks ago. It said for whatever the number was, like for 5,000 years we've been eating bread, but within the last decade everyone has a problem with wheat,
Yeah,
like so
yeah,
the problem is that so many people are not as awake as they need to be. So they they believe there's really like they believe all these lies and this hype, and they think that it's a problem with the food, the food. No, it's not a problem with the food. It's a problem with how it's being grown, and it's a problem
yeah.
with, what they're putting into it or eliminating from it. So here's the thing whether whether you have a lot of land or you have a small yard or you even live in an apartment. I don't even know if this is possible, like if you have a deck or, is this the kind of thing where people, I mean, I know for just being my own little home farmer, I plant things. Now, we've been told, like, when you plant things, oh, you have to grow these kind of vegetables here, but then you have to rotate. Under this regen agriculture, does that become sort of irrelevant because you're allowing it to kind of regenerate itself, as opposed to say, well, I have to, if I grow the tomatoes here, I have to move them here, and all these things that I'm not really an expert about, but there seems to be all these rules. And it sounds like maybe there aren't these rules if you're just doing it the right way.
Well, right behind you, it looks like a ficus tree, if I'm not mistaken.
It does. It's a
Mistaken.
backdrop, though. I will
Yeah.
clarify.
Oh, it's a backdrop. Well, if that was a real window and there's sunlight coming through,
Yeah.
the bio boxes that I invented, they go inside, but they
Really?
typically hang on fences or railings. So you could live in a high rise as long as it's secured properly and grow organic food. And it it I started out walking out and I go, I got to dig up the landlord's lawn here to put in tomatoes. It was March, and and some of it was getting sun, but the wooden fence was getting great sun, and I'm like, well, why don't I hang the planters on there? And so I had an idea to make them out of thick wood so that the soil temperature didn't heat up, and because you always have to keep the water to them to keep the soil inside wet. It's hot summer, beaming right down in there. So I put a lid on it, and I go, huh? You know what I've got? I've got a complete loop closed system. And so I added the biochar and the mycorrhizae, and then I put earthworms in there and put a lid on it. And now all the eggshells, coffee grinds, celery, everything all goes in there. Just lift the lid up, throw it in there, and the worms eat it and turn it into worm castings, which is fertilizer. And the plants, so you take your kitchen waste and turn it into food again. And so it grew tomatoes 7 feet long, hit the ground, and curled back up 3 feet.
Wow.
I had to lift them up the mow underneath them. And there was they were huge, big, bright red, delicious tomatoes. So you can, even if you're not growing everything you need, you can grow your favorite stuff, bell peppers or whatever,
Sure.
carrots. I mean, the boxes were 18 inches deep, so you could grow carrots and they're great. They love lots of what's called a horizon. So there's layers of soil. There's organic layer, which is in nature would be leaves and other composting organic material. And then there's a topsoil, the old timers used to call it, but it's the A horizon. Then there's a B horizon, which is twice as deep. And then C, which is 5 feet deep, and then parent material at the bottom. But it's that top layer is where the earthworms will greyhound in and out of the mineral layer into the organic layer and back, and they fluff up the soil, they condition the soil, and they leave worm castings in there. So when it rains, it'll percolate down and take all the tea, this worm tea, down into the roots of the plant. And the tomatoes being grown upside down, all the nutrients go straight to the roots, and they transplant so much better when you put them in the box, the bottom tray, the bottom of the box is cut lengthwise in half and has two holes drilled in it. So you pull out one half and you take the tomatoes and put them in buckets of water and you put them in there and spread the roots out and they're laying sideways. Then you put the other half of the bottom in and then turn it upright and backfill it with all the soil you need. And because gravity is taking the water, that you add water right then to guard off the transplant shock. They never will. All the water is going straight to the foliage, and they just bounce right back. By the end of the day, they're all ready to go,
They're all
and
perked up.
no, yeah, they're starting pushing new growth within a day or two. It's really cool.
Wow. Now, do you have like a photo or a picture? We could even, slug it in at editing time that, that
Yeah,
shows the bio boxes because I would love people like we have a nice view of the owl one behind you, but I love to just let people see a
yeah.
visual of this. And now these are you sell these? These are available like through you or you just give the instructions on how to sort of create this on your own, like what people that are interested, like myself, how do we do this ourselves?
I can show you how to do it. I'm not. I sell them. I build them and sell them, and I install them. But I'll show you how to build them. This is for everybody. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really cool.
This really is cool. So, yeah, I mean, this is just incredible. And I think that, and I'm also thinking like, think about a lot of these restaurants, right, that have a farm outside, they have their own like so much more can be done in restaurants too, where if you have
That's
that
right.
just make everything. Because, like if you cook yourself or you're at home, you kind of know what you're getting. But if you go out, you take a little bit. But when you find these farm to table or, more organic restaurants, which I'm hopeful will start to be more, more commonplace, then you're not sacrificing, as much when you go out, right? Because you have a sense that that's healthy too.
Yeah.
Um, Wow. Trying to think of any other questions that I have because this is just so fascinating. Now, you said with RFK and the new Trump administration, which by the way is one of the areas, if you will, that we're going to be focusing on, obviously at
Right.
the summit and talking about at great length. Um, this is the method by which they're looking to implement across our country.
Yeah, and it has taken the world by storm. Regenerative agriculture is huge in New Zealand, Australia, Thailand, all over the world, and we are lagging far, far behind because we have the corporate food distribution system, and all they're concerned about is growing food real fast and cheap and getting it out to us, and they don't care about the health that's covered, and they don't even have to list pesticides as an ingredient. They've created a law that lets them get away with it, which is like another thing that's near and dear to my heart. These windmills, wind energy, they're eyesores. They kill just the test facility at Altamont Pass. Uh, I don't know if the numbers are still up there. Probably less now because there's less golden eagles now. But it killed 62 golden eagles per year just at that one facility. And now they're everywhere, all over the country. And Obama passed a law saying that the wind energy industry didn't have to mitigate, which means they don't have to pay for the destruction of these birds, this resource that belongs to you and me and everybody. It's ours. It's our resource. It's we
Yeah.
the people's resource.
Just
And I mean, if I was to, I'm a falconer, and if I was to take a golden eagle out of the wild without a permit, even though I trained it and trained it to hunt and come back to me and it was happy and healthy, they would lock me up.
right.
But they can kill thousands of these birds and not have to pay a dime. And RFK and no, it was Trump said that he doesn't like them. And
Yeah,
I'm
I was
like,
just going to add
put
that.
me on. I
Yeah,
want that. I'll do that for you.
yeah.
And it's
And they
it's just
don't,
so wrong.
that type of energy doesn't really work at the end of the day anyway. I mean, it's.
If it was a solar panel, we could get the hydrogen out of water with it, and we could be running. Hydrogen is like gold to fiat currency. When the fiat currency goes through the floorboards and lands in the basement, gold's down there waiting for it. When we get finished burning all this fossil fuel out here, what's waiting for us? Hydrogen. I had a hydrogen unit in my car, and you turn
Really?
on the ignition, and it made hydrogen in a little aquarium. It had 6 cells, and it wired it right into the fuel line, and it mixed the fuel with hydrogen and oxygen, and I called it my magic carpet ride. It was a V10 Ford van, and it was fast to begin with, but now it's just I going up Freeway 5 in California. I'd have 5 semis in front of me, just right around them.
Really?
You wouldn't believe. And I got $500 off my state taxes because I was driving a clean air vehicle.
Oh wow. I mean we know that the technology that exists even when it comes to, our automobiles and planes and all the I mean there's just especially with these 6,000 patents that are, hopefully going to be released, like God only knows how different our world is going to be, but I do believe that it's not going to happen overnight, right? So we're going to have to slowly become more educated and understand a lot of what you're trying to get out there. When you speak about the falconry, I went to Ireland with my kids. It was the first time I took them abroad. My girls were 5 and 8, and we did have an opportunity at one of the castles to do that. It was so fun and unbelievable. And I had like my little, they're tiny, right? So this like little, 7-year-old have these pictures of her with the glove and, the falcon landing on her. I mean, we just had, it's so amazing. And people don't, the fact that you're out there educating and familiarizing people with these wonderful creatures. And then to think that, there's just no respect, especially when you talk about
Yeah,
these windmills and just killing them. It's just a total lack of respect for life and nature.
yeah.
And I'm really hopeful that that's going to start to turn around. Wow. Well, this has been great. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add or, at this point, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Well, I'm at barnowlboxes.com. Barnowboxes plural.com. And my phone number's there. That's 760-445-2023. And just call anytime. I'd like to chat.
Yeah, and we've got an exciting another couple of months, right? We're going to have some
Yeah.
exciting times down in Cape Canaveral at the summit, which is going to be fantastic because I think there's going to be so many like-minded people, and I just hope more and more people, come on board to join us there because we're really going to be talking about some very cool stuff and have an opportunity to all meet and learn and, have some fun and celebrate. We'll see where we are in 2 months. Hopefully this week, hopefully this afternoon, right? I mean, we were supposed
Yeah.
to get a whole, 200 new executive orders right after he was sworn in. So we'll see what that looks like. So I think this
You
is
must
going to
have a
be,
rubber stamp,
yeah, right? I
Imagine
think this,
signing it 200 times. Good Lord.
I know,
But
but
that's Donald Trump.
yep, it's going
He's
to be an
amazing.
amazing week. I think we're
Yeah.
in for a real ride, a good ride.
Yep.
So, well, I want to thank
Hallelujah.
you so much, Tom, for being here, and I'm
My
really
pleasure.
looking forward to hanging out with you
Yeah.
in March on March 8th and 9th at the summit.
Well, I can't wait.
Yeah.
This is going to be great.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon. Thanks again.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Elisa V here. We all know that legal matters can be costly and stressful. Finding the right representation and dealing with high retainers and hourly bills adds up fast. But what if I told you there's a way to have legal insurance just like your health or car insurance? Legal Shield has leveled the playing field. From just $29.95 a month, you get access to lawyers for personal legal matters, from traffic tickets to real estate issues or trust matters. Help is just a tap away on your phone. Call or text 516-493-1742 and use code ELISA Legal to start your journey to legal protection today.